What up, FaB fanatics? On it here, back with another Flesh and Blood video. Really excited to announce the beginning of a new video and article series here at FaB Foundry called OniT's Workshop, where I will be breaking down decks that I play personally, using cards for my personal collection, and doing videos on the breakdown, and then also writing an article and posting an article on the FaBfoundry.co website, which has more in-depth breakdown and analysis of the deck. I'm really looking forward to sharing today's deck with you. Of course, Azalea is my hero. I've kind of, put the most time and energy into her, so I felt like it was only natural to begin this series with a deck that I feel I know best. And of course, this deck I call the Lean, Mean Arrow Machine. Let's just get right into it and break down the deck. Of course, Azalea, Ace in the Hole, is our Lady of the Bow. Her once per turn action, put a card from your arsenal at the bottom of your deck. If you do, put the top card of your deck face up into your arsenal. If it's an arrow card, it gains Dominate until end of turn. Go again. I think this is the beginning of what I call the holy trinity of the Ranger right now, which is Azalea, her weapon, which is Death Dealer, and it's once per turn action, costing 1. If you have no cards in your arsenal, you may put an arrow card from your hand face up into your arsenal. If you do, draw a card, go again. And right into the legendary Skullbone Crosswrap, which I've been fortunate to pull. Once per turn action, turn a face down card in your arsenal face up, opt, and go again. It also has Arcane Barrier 1. Those 3 cards right there is what I call the holy trinity of Ranger, and I do feel like it's really fun to get into kind of a flow state of playing the game when you're activating Death Dealer or activating Skullbone, Crosswrap, Death Dealering, and Azalean. This is a fundamental and paramount to winning games with Ranger, of course. The other piece of the equipment, I have been fortunate enough to pull a Fendel's Spring Tunic, which I think is very powerful in this deck in particular, because we have such a low cost curve where everything in the deck costs 0 or 1. So having that one extra resource every 3 turns does come in handy quite a bit. And of course, I have the Snapdragon Scalers, attack, reaction, destroy Snapdragon Scalers, target attack action card with cost 1 or less, gains go again. Again, hits every attack action card. And of course, the Ranger common equipment, Bullseye Bracers, attack or action, destroy bracers. If you have no cards in your arsenal, you may put an arrow card from your hand face up into your arsenal. It gains +1 until end of turn, go again, and also Arcane Barrier 1. The nice part about having 2 Arcane Barriers built into our standard equipment means we don't really have to worry about Ranger or sideboarding too much for Ranger or Runeblade. So that is our hero, our weapon, and our equipment. The 4 piles that you see in front of me are broken down into the different segments of the deck. First, we have our pump spells. We have both red and yellow Nimblism. The next attack action card will cost 1 or less. You play this turn, gains +3 or +2 respectively. Go again, cost 0 of course, and hits every single attack action card in our deck. We also have the red and yellow Plunder Runs, again costing 0. The next attack action card you control hits. This turn, draw a card. If Plunder Run is played from Arsenal, next attack action card you play this turn gains +3 or +2 respectively. Again, we want to be playing Plunder Run from Arsenal as much as possible to maximize the efficiency of the card. I really like to use the Ranger reload mechanic to put Plunder Runs into Arsenal. That's a great way to do it. Of course, starting off a turn with Plunder Run and Arsenal isn't a bad way to go either. Our final pump spell, of course, is the Ranger class action Take Aim, both the red and the yellow. Take Aim, the next Ranger attack action card you play this turn gains +3, reload, go again, and +2 respectively. So those are our pump spells. I believe that's 18 pump spells that we have in the deck. And then we're going to get right into our arrows. Of course, the strongest arrow in the game right now is, of course, red in the ledger, cost 1, Azalea specialization. If red in the ledger hits a hero, they can't play or activate more than 1 action during their next turn. This is extremely integral part of this deck, of course. Ideally, if we draw into red in the ledger, it's nice, but we can also knock the death whistle, which allows us to go search an arrow in our deck, reveal it, shuffle the deck, and put it on top of our deck. And also allows us to reload. We can then go and Azalea the red in the ledger into Arsenal to give it dominate and hopefully pump it. It's pretty much the strongest singular attack that we have, is going and fetching red in the ledger, dropping it into Arsenal, pumping it, and sending it over at our opponent for 8, possibly 11 dominate, and then handcuffing our opponent's next turn by restricting them to just 1 action point, which also allows us to set up our next turn. So that is pretty much the strength of this deck right here, knock into red. Although I have knocked the death whistle into other arrows as well. Second strongest arrow, of course, is the super rare Endless Arrow, cost 0. If Endless Arrow hits, put it into your hand. It's a nuisance for your opponents. They have to respect it, and they pretty much have to block it many times, because if they don't, it could end up being sent at them a second and even possibly a third time in a single turn, depending on how you have things set up. So I got a whole play set of those, and then we get into our more standard arrows. We have our red and yellow play set of Headshot. Of course, if Headshot is put into your arsenal face up, it gains +2 until end of turn, 4 and 3 attack respectively. Of course, this is a great card that you want to Death Dealer into arsenal face up in order to use its ability. Next, we also have Sick'em Shot, which is our Go Again arrow, both the red and yellow versions. Of course, Sick'em Shot costs 1 and gains Go Again and hits for 4 and 3 respectively. And then we have our Ridge Rider Shot costing 0. If it is put into Arsenal face up, we get to opt 1. Allows us to kind of set things up a little bit more. We have the playset of Hamstring Shot costing 1. If it hits a hero, the first attack action during their next turn costs an additional 1 to play, which is a nuisance. It also hits for 5. And then we have Salvage Shot, which costs 1, and if the Salvage Shot hits, put it at the bottom of your deck, which is nice, especially if we end up going long game, which we don't really want to do with this deck, but it's always nice when it hits and you can put it into the bottom of your deck. And our final arrow, of course, Searing Shot, costs 0. If it hits, your opponent loses an extra life, which is kind of a nuisance. So those are the arrows that we have. And then we get into our generic attacks. All of our generic attacks have the ability to go again, which fuels going wide in certain turns, or it can also fuel going into a large dominated arrow right behind it. So Ravenous Rabble, we have both the red and yellow. The benefit of having Ravenous Rabble in there, of course, it allows us to see what is on the top of our deck as part of its ability, revealing the top card of your deck. Ravenous Rabble gets -X, where X is the pitch value of your card. We only have 3 blue pitch in this entire deck, so we're only losing 1 or 2 off that total, most likely only losing 1 because 2/3 of our deck are 1 pitch. Again, that allows us to kind of maximize the use of our Skullbone Crosswrap and opting and figuring out whether we want to draw into the card on top or possibly Azalea into another attack action or a dominate arrow. We also have the red Scar for Scar. Of course, we will be playing from behind a lot of times. When you play Scar for Scar, if you have less life than your opponent, it gains Go Again and hits for 4 and costs 0. And our final Go Again attack, which Go Again, of course, is activated when we banish a Nimble Strike, as we described from earlier from Graveyard. It gains +1 and Go Again when we do that. Of course, this costs 1. So those are our Go Again generic attacks, which fuel our hopefully bigger or wider arrow attacks right behind it. And then we do have a few support cards as well. I currently have 1 3 of a kind in the deck, cost 1, draw 3 cards. Until end of turn, you may only play cards from Arsenal, Go Again. I have been finding success using this card, and it has benefited me a lot, so I've considered adding a second one to the deck. There's that. Of course, I have 2 rapid fires right now. Until end of turn, arrows you control gain Go Again, reload. Also, there's times where I've just used it to pitch as well, depending on what I have in my hand. If I have a grip full of arrows, it's nice when rapid fire is sitting right alongside of it. But then again, I've also just pitched it to fuel entire turns before it as well. And then we have our final card, which is red and yellow Razor Reflex attack reaction, of course. Got to keep our opponents honest and guessing. Razor Reflexes are very key in being able to surprise our opponent and be able to extend turns and go wider. Of course, the second bullet point is what works here with this deck, which the target attack action card with cost 1 or less gains +3, and if it hits, this attack gains go again. And for the most part, to kind of wrap things up, all the yellow cards that you see in the deck, again, have the versatility of not only just being used, but also can be pitched to fuel a turn, because in many cases, our biggest, strongest turns only take 2 resources to fuel. And many times I've actually sent attacks over at my opponent for 9, 10, 11, 12 costing 0. So that is one of the real fun aspects of this deck. So again, I have the link in the description below to the article that I've written about this deck on the FaBfoundry.co website. And of course, this begins what we're calling the Celebration of Ranger and the Lady of the Bow Azalea at FaBfoundry.com. So during this week, now until Friday, July 24th at 2020, of course, at midnight, we're doing 15% off all Ranger class specific cards using Lean Mean 15 at discount, or at checkout, using the discount code in order to receive 15% off. Please like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you think about our deck build. Have you played Azalea before? What are you doing differently? Do you have any questions or concerns? Add them to the comments below, or head on over to the article on our website, and let's open up the discussion there. So thank you very much for watching. Hope all is well, and take care.